Back here at Blue Wire Studios at the Wynn in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's episode 605 of the podcast, ladies and gents. We are presented by Jack O'Hara TV. Like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel at Jack O'Hara TV. We got Tori Gordon in the building.
What's up?
Thanks so much for coming on. I know you've been here like 5 or 6 times before with David Meltzer and office hours and everything else that he's got going on.
But it's good to be in the building.
It's great. I mean, the guy's got the playbook. He's got office hours. I know he's like probably one of your biggest mentors.
He is. He's one of those people when you get around him, there's like this energy, there's this magnetism. The people that he just naturally like attracts in his circle are always people that I really vibe with. And I'm like, yes, I can learn from you. I hate being the smartest one. Like I always have this thing. It's like if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
Yeah.
So when I'm around David, I'm always like, okay, taking notes, observing,
just the master
watching the
of
way
nuggets
he does
too,
things.
right?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, let me put that one in my back pocket.
He's just like the epitome of someone who knows how to manage his time well. Like the first time I ever interviewed him was a few years ago. He's like, all right, I got 25 minutes. Yeah. And literally 25 minutes on the dot, we were done. And I'm like, I think I got everything I wanted out of that interview.
Well, he sets that intention, right, initially. You know what you're going to go into. So that gives, for me, it provides this container and clarity about, okay, what's the end result? What do I want to get out of this? And how do I be most efficient with the time that I have? And he is the master of like knowing and being in control of your calendar and your schedule. And I believe that now. I mean, one of the biggest things I've learned is that my time is my currency. And if I am not very meticulous and intentional about where and who I give that to, then what am I doing? I'm wasting the biggest thing that I'll never get back.
And then you're just drained.
Yeah.
Like how many times, there's a countless amount of times where I just feel drained and I don't know why. It's like, oh, I'm just like exhausting all of my energy into the wrong people. Like I was telling you before, like there's some friends I have that text me 5 hours after I send them a text message asking a question. I'm like, moved on, man.
Right.
And like, then there's other people like, you didn't have to come here today, right? But you're pretty intentional about it.
Sure.
Like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
I'm down. I want to. I want to hang out with people who are doing cool things in the world that are, intentionally moving forward, making progress and following and pursuing the things that they're super passionate about, because it inspires me to continue to do the same. And I think for anybody out there that's kind of on that path, it's important to get around people and get in rooms with people who are pursuing that, because otherwise it's easy to feel isolated when you're doing it alone. And you're like, oh, I'm the only one in my friend group right now that is trying to do something outside the norm, or is trying to build something for myself, or I'm trying to work on myself. You know what I mean? And when you feel like you're the only one, it can get pretty tiring too.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, I feed off other people's energy. So coming here and hanging out with you is like, this fills my cup.
I know. This is like, I'm fired up. My soul's set on fire in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Because like I have friends like that too that I care about oh so deeply, right? But at the same time, they not necessarily like see your vision for what you're doing.
Right.
So you can't really like give into that. And, like they don't like pour your cup in a sense, like you said, right?
Not everybody shares the same vision and mission, and I've realized that's completely okay. But I'm about creating containers and spaces where I was reading this thing the other day. It was like, you're meant to create the thing that you desire. Like the thing that I want to be part of, I'm meant to go create it. And the people that are attracted and want to come be part of that, those are my people, right? And if the people that I hang out with currently or I want in that circle aren't like interested, that's fine. But the people who are will show up and be there. That's like with David's group. I think the people that hang around him, they're there because they want to be there.
Yeah. You almost have to weed out the people that don't necessarily. And like I said, there's people that you know for a fact, like, I can't be around you. But then there's also friends you really care about where it's like, but you're just not like,
you just
not working out.
Yeah. Or you just, everybody has different priorities and they're on like a different path in terms of their own growth and evolution and what they're interested in, what they value. For me, it's about finding people who share similar values. And then how they express those values are typically pretty similar. Like one of my biggest values is freedom. That's why I run my own business and I run my own podcast and I'm in charge of my own calendar, because I was in corporate for a while and I didn't like
Yeah.
I don't love being told what to do. So, because I value freedom, that has shown up in my business, and how I run my life.
It's like it's comfortable for a while. Like I was telling you before, like I worked in tech sales,
Mm-hmm.
insurance, solar even, and I'm like, there's a lot of good money in it.
Yeah.
But after a while, you just start getting drained.
Right.
To the point where it's like, as soon as I get home, I'm just tired. I just want to
Mm-hmm.
go to bed. And then you get up and do the same thing every day. And then you start to realize, like, I'm not doing anything that I'm passionate about.
Right.
Like,
Well,
it's difficult making money doing things you want to do, but like, that's the only way I'd want to do it.
yeah. Yeah. It's like that saying, if you're not, I can't remember the quote exactly. I'm probably going to butcher it, honestly, but it's like, if you don't have goals that you're pursuing, like you're going to be working to pursue someone else's. Like you're going to go to work every day to help build someone else's dream. You might as well go put your effort into something that you want to build and create. And I don't think everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur. Everybody should go out on their own and try to like start a business or a podcast or whatever. Not everybody wants to do that. There's something to be said for people who really love the security and consistency that corporate and different industries provide. But for somebody like me who likes to be able to have an idea and execute on that idea and have the freedom and flexibility to go create that in the way that it looks in my head and not necessarily have to do it in the way someone else expects is really empowering. And it forces me to see what I'm capable of, because there's no game plan, right? There's no like playbook. Exactly. Unless you like hang out and listen to other people who've done it similarly. Like the whole thing is I'm trial and error. I'm figuring it out as I go along.
Like the goal is to get up, fail, get up again, fail, get
100%.
up again, fail again. And also at the same time, take bits and pieces from mentors like a David Meltzer
Right.
or like whoever else you're kind of not idolizing, but kind of mimicking yourself after when you first start. Because like you need some sort of
reference point,
reference layout,
It's a reference point in my mind, because it's like these people, whether it's somebody like David or you see people look at you this way, right? They look at you, they look at me on these shows and they're like, oh, wow, they've achieved some level of success or notoriety or whatever. They don't know the behind the scenes of what that looks like, how long that took, the insecurities we continue to battle, the things we're still learning and growing from. So people in my life that I see as mentors are examples and reference points for what's possible, and then it's a matter of self-belief for me. It's like, oh, if they can do it, why can't I? I remember when I was first considering starting a podcast and I was still in corporate, I was really doing a complete reprioritization of all of what was important and meaningful in my life. And I would look at these hosts of these shows and I would think like, that's so cool. I wish I could do something like that. And then I remember the day that it hit me and I was like, if they can, why can't you? Like, it's not like they were just born with this understanding and these skills. Like all of that was learned. And if they can learn it, so can you. Just learn to be resourceful. And it's crazy when you set that intention and then you just decide and you make a decision and you get off the fence of thinking about it and then you start to actually do something about it, how much you'll find the information and the knowledge that you need. And it's just about taking like that next step in my experience. So I continue to look at people who are further down the road than me as people that just to like guide me and to give me advice when I think I don't know. But a lot of times I do have the answers. More like just get out there and put in the work and try. I don't think enough people are willing to try genuinely and like fail, because I don't really see failure as failure. I see it as learning, really.
Yeah, that's all it is too.
Yeah.
I think one of Meltzer's greatest nuggets is if you want to be something, go find someone who's already done it and seek their advice and their tutelage.
I don't know a better way, to do it. Even when you think about going and getting like your MBA or going to school, not hating on like higher education. For some, it's like the path and it's useful. But I would rather go learn from somebody who's done the thing than learn from somebody who's teaching me the theory behind it or the ideas, the concepts, but they've never actually put to use the work that they're talking about. Like, I want to get my hands dirty. I want to figure it out. Like, I'm a learn as I go kind of person. So you can give me an example and I can think about it, but it's only going to resonate and really like sink in if I try it and do it and apply it. And that's how I just typically learn. So I'm like, let me go shadow somebody. Let me go be, walk around and follow somebody like a David Meltzer or and see how they spend their time and what they do every day. And then let me take the things that work and apply them in my own life.
At what age did you kind of realize or like come to this realization? Because I know you were in corporate for a while too, and then you finally figured out like this isn't necessarily what I want to do anymore.
Right.
And then you start your own show and you connect with so many cool people. Like that's the best thing about this type of platform. Yeah. Is that you can literally just talk to anybody that you want to and form really cool relationships.
Yeah, it was just this dream because I got to cherry pick like the best of the best. I was like, if I could go talk to somebody, who would I want to go talk to, and what kind of conversation would I want to have? And then, so I just created an environment where that's where I got what I got to do for a living. But the realization happened very quickly. As soon as I left corporate, I had no backup plan. Like I had no plan B. I owned a house, beautiful home at like 27 and put it on the market, sold it because I was like, I'm going to give myself every single chance to be successful. Like I'm not going to have any reason that this isn't going to work out, that if it's up to me, like I'm going to give myself every opportunity. But immediately I knew nothing about starting a business. So I was like, I've got to find somebody who can teach me and tell me what to do and how I can start making money. So immediately I put myself into a business mastermind and was surrounded by, like 15, 20 other people that were similar in my space. And then I just kind of continued to grow. I was like, okay, I've extracted everything I can from this person. Now, based on kind of this new circle that I've surrounded myself with entrepreneurs and people who are doing this, who else can I learn from? Because I am work smarter, not harder type of girl. Mm-hmm. I like to be efficient. And I'm like, what's the quickest way to get where I want to go? And it's always been take the advice and learn from somebody who's there or been there. Because why would I just try to like figure it out? It's about taking, decades and putting it in today's. And that's what you get when you go learn from somebody who's done what you want to do.
I mean, that's like the number one mistake people make. I make that mistake all the time where it's like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm connected to so many people and I have this show and I'm friends with a lot of people that know what I want and are doing it. Why don't I ask them for advice? Mm-hmm. Like, it's like, you've probably had people ask you for advice and like, it feels great. You're like, yeah, absolutely. But like in your head internally, you're like, oh, they don't want to hear from me in that regard.
But they do, and the other thing I found is once you keep putting yourself in these positions to learn from people, everyone wants to help. Like everybody has this very similar why, why we do what we do. Yeah, sure. We might want to make a lot of money. We might want to be in control of our time. We want to have freedom, location freedom, time freedom, whatever. But at the end of the day, like we all want to give back to some degree. We want, for whatever cause or whoever, we want to help the person that's like us, that's trying to figure it out. And so what I found is like people are so willing to say yes. We've got to get better at asking the right questions. Mm-hmm. And this whole world of opportunity opens up. So I'm like, okay, put myself in these positions. And then what I found is people are like, how can I help you? How can I serve you? What can I do for you? And what I realized is I was collecting all these humans that were willing to help me, but I didn't know what to ask for. I was like, okay, now what? And I realized it's okay to ask for what, like I deserve what I desire. Now it's okay. These are the people that have been sent to help me on my path. So just say, hey, like I'm looking to get on stages, 20 stages this year. Hey, I'm looking to connect with this person. Hey, I want to monetize my show and I'm not sure the best way to do that. Do you have any advice? Like, can you put me in contact with somebody at Blue Wire? Because I'm trying to like up the level of my content game. Just ask and see. The worst they can say is no. The worst they can say is no. So I'm like, I'm already in the worst case scenario. I might as well go for it. And it's all about taking those swings and getting up to
bat. If you don't ask, it's already a no.
Right. Exactly. So it's just like, why not give myself that opportunity? And I'm always happily surprised with the things that come from it. I'm like, wow, I'm always reminded of how generous people really are. When they, especially if they see somebody younger who's kind of similar to them and on that similar path, they like We want to like extend
Everybody wants
our
that
information
mentor.
knowledge.
It's like the Tony Stark Spider-Man thing, where it's
Mhm.
like, if you're a Marvel fan, some people aren't.
Yeah.
And they don't understand those references. But like, it's like mentoring someone, like having, like I have an opportunity to help someone that is going through the same thing that I went through
Right.
X amount of years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I think the person that we're always best equipped to serve is the person we once were, you know? So if there's somebody 6 months, a year, 5 years behind me in their journey, like that's the person I'm best and most equipped to help. So anytime somebody is like in my DMs or sends me an email and it's like, hey, how did you do this? Or I'm like, I'm happy to share because
Yeah.
those were the people I looked to when I was in that position.
That's how you unlock so much, like your potential. You don't even realize, like, like that's how you do it. Once you're like given that tutelage and information, you're like, oh, now I have a direct, clear path as to how I can do this.
Yeah.
And then you pay it forward, and then you give it back sometimes too.
Yeah. Yeah. How long have you been recording in the studio now?
This, today's Saturday, so since yesterday.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So how does it feel like
This
to
is cool.
have people walking by and like seeing your show and your like this is your thing now? Like how does that
I know. Well,
feel?
usually they stop for about 2 seconds, realize it's no one that important, and then they keep walking.
They're wondering. There's
Yeah.
like who is
That's why I'm
that
sitting on
guy?
this side today, so I don't have to look at them.
I know.
Like,
I've been watching all these people pass by and
They're like putting their head up against. They're like, oh no, it's nothing really that
it's like
important.
you're in a zoo.
Yeah.
Who is in there? But it's got to feel pretty good. I mean, I would imagine. And the thing is, whether somebody's looking at you watching this show and thinking, how did he get there? Or anybody else that you see online or that people admire and look up to, it's like there's a whole trajectory of like how you got to this moment.
Yeah.
That most people don't.
It's not like it just falls in
about.
your lap either.
Yeah.
Right? You have to like visualize what you want, and then hopefully, if you're fortunate enough, it manifests. Like I remember in the fall of 21 when this place launched and it was good to go. There was, Bet to Win, Joe Fan and Claudia Bellafato had their show. I remember they did an episode with like Chad Ochocinco, and I remember thinking like I was doing shows out of a studio in Scottsdale, and I'm like, that is like the nicest podcast studio I've ever seen, like probably the nicest in the country.
Yeah.
And then immediately tried to get in touch with Kevin Jones, CEO and founder of Blue Wire. Developed a relationship with him there, and then I had him on my show a little over a year ago. And ever since then, we've been talking back and forth. I visited this place a few times over the summer, and then it wasn't until, again, yesterday where I had the opportunity to finally shoot some episodes out of this place. And again, I'm 3.5 hours away in Phoenix, but I'm like, this is the place to be, Like, if I mean, I'm sure you would have said yes if I was just like, yeah, I do a podcast, send you a Zoom link,
Yeah.
whatever. This is way nicer than a Zoom link.
For sure. It is. It's fun. Anytime I have an opportunity to come down here, I'm like all for it. But that's the thing. It's like you just gave people that path. You're like, for how you got here. It's like I saw an opportunity. I reached out. I started to follow this guy and like learn about what he was doing. I invited him on my show. He said yes. I nurtured that relationship. And then when the time was right, I made the ask, and I utilized my opportunities and walked through the doors that opened for me. And that's how it happens. I think most of us, when we have a goal in mind for where we want to go, it's like having a destination that you've never been to before. So I think about it like a GPS. Like if you're coming to Vegas from Scottsdale, you put the Wynn Resort Hotel and Casino in your Waze or in your Google Maps, and it gives you directions, right, for how to get here. And so people might think, okay, how do I become a millionaire or start my own business or start my own whatever the goal is for them, right? And that's like the destination that they've never been to before, so they don't know how to get there. And they're expecting life to just offer them the roadmap. Like, here's the directions. You're going to go here for 5 miles, then take a left, get on the interstate, drive for 2 hours. I'm going to give you all the updates on the conditions, the weather, the road, all the things, obstacles that might be in your way. And life's like, I don't do that. That's not how I operate.
Yeah.
It says put the destination, hold that in your mind, focus on that, where you want to go, and just get started. Just get on the road. And then I'm going to give you the next prompt. Then I'm going to give you the next right turn. Instead of, here's everything you need to know. This is exactly how it's going to go. No one has that certainty or that plan. And I think a lot of people just end up waiting. They do two things. They either never get started and never get going because they're waiting to have this perfect, guaranteed, certain plan and how it's going to work out. Or what they do instead is they just follow whoever.
Yeah.
They just end up following whoever on the path, and they don't know if the person in front of them is going where they want to go. So they wonder, after following their friends or following their girlfriend or following whoever, their dad's plan, their mom's roadmap for their life, like, oh, why am I not where I want to be? Well, that person that you're following isn't going where you want to go.
Yeah. It's like get a high school degree, then get a college degree, then find a job and work there for the next 40 years. That's most people's plans, right?
Right.
I remember growing up thinking like that's how it was done.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really even get started with this until, I know it was early, but until I really got into college. Because I'm like, in high school, just have fun, go to college, you learn, 4-year degree, and after that, hopefully I can get a gig with like ESPN or Fox Sports. Because that was kind of like my goal going into it, right? When you realize, oh, it's you having to scratch and claw and really scrap your way to the top. Mm-hmm. That's how you're going to do it. And especially in today's day and age when we can just like start our own shows, be our own host, be our own platform.
Right.
It's hard because there's a billion podcasters out there and there's very few that actually stand out. And you have to go out of your way from a production standpoint and working on your skills as a host. We were talking about like I've gotten used to hearing myself talk. I edit my own stuff. Not everybody's comfortable with that, but you got to be if you want to get to that next level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Like my podcast and my whole brand is called the Coachable Podcast, and Coachable is like my thing because I was an athlete growing up. That was kind of how I started to learn how to be a team player, how to lead, how to like focus on a goal and get there. Like I always wanted to be the best. I wanted to be the MVP. I wanted to win the championships. Like I'm competitive, super competitive. I was a 3-sport athlete, and I was always, my main sport was softball, and I was a pitcher. So I like to be in control, you know what I mean? Like I chose that position when I was super young because I wanted to be involved in every play of the game. And there's so much that I learned from that. But what I take away now, and when I think about being coachable, my whole philosophy on life is like, be a student of the game. I think life is a game. It's this game, and I'm like, how can I play it in the most efficient, successful way possible? And I think a lot of people are playing the game of life not really understanding all the rules. And if you're playing a game you don't understand the rules, it's not fun. Right? It's not fun.
And we've all
at
been
It's
there too.
frustrating. And you're like, why am I not winning? Why am I not scoring? Why am I not making progress and getting to my ultimate like end goal? And I say there's like a goal line in life and a soul line in life. A lot of people are always focused on the end result and like getting to where they want to be. But I'm also like, does it fulfill you?
Yeah.
There's two. And if I want to move the ball down the field, I also like went out for football when I was in middle school. Like I was that girl. So if I want to make progress, I've got to know where I'm going. And my idea about being coachable is being a student, learning how to do something better than you did the day before. And if you're a fan of sports, how many of us do we have people that we look up to that are like, oh, I want to be like that person one day? Because again, it gives us a reference point of what's possible and what we can work to and work for, and hopefully one day kind of mimic in some ways.
Who were some of those mentors for you? Whether it be like people you knew or people you watched on TV.
I mean, God, sports or just in general?
Yeah, just in general.
Yeah, I mean, definitely people like David Meltzer. People in the like personal development, spiritual world. It's people like Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williamson, who's now been on my podcast, which is like incredible. Gabby Bernstein. I was reading her books when I was like really trying to find my way and starting to learn about a different way to approach life instead of trying to force an effort and like control everything. It was like, how do I become a magnet to the things that I want? How do I actually elevate my consciousness, my awareness? We were talking a lot about awareness earlier and like being self-aware. And how do I create an environment where these things naturally want to come to me, as opposed to I've got to claw and fight and work my way to the top? It's both. It's not like I don't just get to chill on the sidelines and everything I want comes to me. I've got to get dirty. You know what I mean? I got to get in the game. I got to get off the sidelines and start actually putting in the work. But there's a way to create openings for myself where possibility happens, where opportunity happens. And I think that happens when you get off of defense and you start to learn how to play offense. Yep. Most people only play defense their entire lives. And defense, that's self-protection. That's, I'm in it like I'm a lone wolf. No one's here to help me. I'm just got to take care of it myself. I've got to make everything happen on my own. No, you know what I mean? I don't ask for help. I don't ask for support. I don't, maybe I don't believe there's actually meaning in what I do, or I'm kind of out here on my own and we're just trying to protect ourselves from fear, from pain, from bad things happening. That's what defense does. Yep. Defense protects from bad things happening. I'm like, we got to get off of defense and we got to learn how to play a new position. But that takes a whole new skill. Like learning how to play offense and look for the opportunities. Like a quarterback is looking for the openings. Yep. He's looking for the receiver that's ready. He's like the pocket. He's like, that's completely different position on the field and skill set. And so it takes you to switch your mentality of like, I'm not going to look at this experience or this thing that's happening to me as a victim, like, poor me. Why is this thing happening? Why is this thing so hard? Instead say, hey, where's the opportunity in this? Where's the open pocket? Where's the lane? Where can I learn and how can I grow and how can I get better? And so that's like the mission I'm on, and everything that I do is how do I set myself and the people that I lead up for success? And that's like, how do we learn to play offense?
Yeah, well, only if everybody knew that analogy. I feel like there's billions of people that really, oh yeah, if only you explain it to me in layman's terms like that,
right?
I'd understand it.
Right. I don't, that when that came to me, I was like, this makes sense to me. And I tried to bridge the gap for people between, like, I don't want to over spiritualize or like make it woo woo and weird. It's not. It's like, this is something you can understand and most people get, right? It's like, I want to move and progress towards the things that I want, not just prevent bad things from happening, because that's exhausting. Mm-hmm. If you're ask a D lineman if he's tired, he's like, yes, yeah, all day, because he's just taking hit after hit after hit, as opposed to somebody who's really looking for those opportunities, creating those opportunities for themselves, and getting up and trying again. And so I'm like, let's get dirty. Let's get our hands dirty. Let's find other people who are willing to get in the game and try and fail and get in the arena too, because that's where we like cut our teeth on what am I actually capable of? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if enough people are willing to do that, but it's like, what's the alternative?
I know. Just living in fear. Like the worst thing that could happen is, I guess, the worst fear in your mind, whatever you're feeling.
Yeah, it's always worst case scenario thinking. People are like, I remember thinking this when I was starting all my stuff, and I was contemplating, should I do it, should I not? And I always like thought of myself like sitting on this fence, and I had one foot in this world of personal development and podcasting and all the things I wanted to deliver as a coach, and that's where my head was and my heart was. And then I had one foot in the comfortable, secure, guaranteed world of corporate with this ladder and this infrastructure of like, how do I continue to progress? But I wasn't making progress in either direction. When you're sitting on a fence, you're like, you're stuck. And so I knew I had to put both feet on one side or the other. And I kept thinking, what's the worst case scenario? Okay, worst case scenario is I bet on myself. I put myself out there. I try. Quote unquote, what failure would have looked like for me is I can't afford to pay my bills, right? And most people think it's like, oh, I'm going to end up homeless on the street, drug addict, like my family's going to disown me. It's like, no, what's the real worst case scenario, genuinely? And I get everybody's situation's different. But for me, it was like, I can't pay my bills and I have to go back to a 9-to-5, right? I'm living that worst case scenario right now. Yeah. I'm in the worst case scenario. So why not give myself an opportunity, a shot? And that's what I did. And I haven't looked back, because it's like at that point, all of my energy is freed up to go in one direction. If you're trying to like on the field, you're like, should I go right or should I go left?
That's just exhausting.
Like, you're just like shocked and frozen. You don't move. Mm-hmm. So just choose a path and be fully on that path.
Yeah. And that's exhausting to be in that situation, just from a mentality standpoint, too. Like, everybody around you doesn't even, like, realize
You're just in
what's
so much
going on.
conflict,
Just like,
inner conflict.
and, like, some people have, like, 12 different things that they want to accomplish, and they don't know where to start, and they
Mm.
don't know which project to start on first. Like, start one, you know? And then once you finish that, get to the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. Pick one and give your energy and attention to it. And that's, I think, focus. You know, if you have diluted focus, you're going to get diluted results.
Yeah. Vague goals get vague results.
There you go.
You know?
Yeah. Be specific and be willing. Everyone's like, oh, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I'm like, yo, you are my type of people. If you're willing to go all in,
Yeah.
like, I understand. Protect yourself from like everybody has a different risk tolerance, right? But for me, if I had a backup plan and I had a scapegoat, a plan B, like okay, this is my way out if it doesn't work out, I would have never really, really applied myself because I had this like thing to fall back on. So it was sort of like jump out of the plane and build the parachute on the way down kind of thing. I'm like, I'm in free fall and we're going to make this happen because I don't have an alternative.
And it's crazy how many people find that realization when they do realize that I'm living my worst case scenario right now. Like, F it. What's the worst that could happen? And then their mentality changes.
Right.
Where it should start way, way earlier.
I encourage people to think about that. Like, what is the worst case scenario? And because it's usually much more scary and big and this like monster in your head than when you say it out loud.
Yeah.
Because when you hear yourself say it, you're like, really? This is the thing I'm so scared of?
9 times out of 10, it doesn't turn out the way you thought it was.
Never.
Even if it doesn't turn out the way you wanted it to, it's like, oh, that wasn't that bad.
Right. No, exactly. So I'm like, actually admitting it, saying out loud takes the monster outside, like from under the bed, and you're able to see it's like not as big and scary as you think it is.
Well, you said something very interesting earlier about like finding someone that had the path that you want to go down, nourishing that relationship, and then finding the right time to make the ask for something that you want, no matter how little or big that ask might be. Like, what's kind of an example there for you? Like, for people who are too afraid to do something like that, like building a relationship with someone that you admired for years on end, nourishing a relationship with someone that doesn't necessarily need your value at that time. Like, how do you do that and then eventually make the ask that 9 times out of 10 people are too afraid to ask for?
This is the conversation I've been having a lot lately, actually, because there are people in my life where I don't feel like I'm in a certain place in my career. I know I have a lot going on for me, and I'm really proud of what I've built so far. But at the same time, when I'm around them, I'm like, I don't even know what I can offer you because you've got it all. You know what I mean? You don't need me in any way. But what I've realized with those people, what they value is consistency, showing up, just support. The fact that if they have something going on in Vegas, like I'm there to support. I show up to their events. I show up to their meet and greets. I show up because one, I just enjoy being in the energy of it and all of the people that I get to meet, but they really appreciate that. And they appreciate you being intentional with the time that you do get with them and asking very pointed and specific questions. But I was having breakfast with this guy the other day, and he said this to me. He was like, how can I help you? What can I do for you? And I stopped and I was like, okay, I thought about it. I was like, what do I really want? Like, how can I take advantage of this guy being super generous and saying that? And I said, honestly, he's moving to Vegas and he's got a lot going on. He's very well networked, very well connected. And I said, honestly, just invite me to stuff. Like, if you're going to a networking thing, if you have something going on, if you are having dinner with somebody you think I would enjoy meeting or that I could have a connection with, can you just invite me? And he was like, oh yeah, 100%. Like, I would love for everything I have coming up, you're going to be involved in. I was like, wow, the amount of things that just opened up for me and that's like such a silly ask, but like, it was like, can I come hang out with you? And he was like, yes. So I think it's not being embarrassed of the things that you want and that sound, it's like, oh, is this cringy that I'm like asking for you to like invite me to whatever you have going on? And the reason I ask that is, one, obviously I'm going to meet people and things, but I'm going to continue to develop deeper connections. And people want to help the people that they know and the people that they like and the people that they like doing business with or that they like hanging out with, they want to do business with. And so it's about, for me, it's how do I go deep with the connections I do have instead of trying to go necessarily so wide where I don't have any substance with people, you know?
Right. Yeah, you can be connected to everybody in the world, but like if they don't fit your specific niche of what you're going after, what's like that's
Right.
kind of exhausting too.
I want, like, I'm hosting an event here tomorrow.
Yep.
And the reason I'm doing it is because, like, I want to know people's names. I want to be able to go up to them and hug them and ask them how their partner's doing or how that thing they were working on panned out. You know, like, I think there's so much value in being present with people and really knowing them instead of, like, they're probably people I'm connected with all over the world that if I walked by them in the casino, we wouldn't speak. They wouldn't know my name. You know what I mean? But online, I'm like, oh, I know that person, but not really. I want to know, like, now I feel like I know you. Like, I could call you on the phone and be like, Jack, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, how are you? What's new? And I really value that. And so I try to surround myself with other people who value that too, because what I've found is there's just so much that, like, comes from those connections. It's all about connection to me. Connection to self, connection to other people, connection to a higher power.
You realize how kind people are too, right?
Yeah. Because I think it's easy to be like, oh, everybody's out for themselves and everybody has selfish motives and mentality. And sure, we're all trying to, like, progress our lives and our careers and things like that. But at the same time, it's like, what's the point of getting to the top if I'm there by myself?
It's lonely.
Yeah. Like, I want to do it with people that I enjoy. I want to do life with others that are also similar.
That's the loneliest part about being, like, let's say you're in a friend group with people that don't necessarily understand your vision, like we were talking about earlier. It's like, oh, that's a pretty lonely place to be because you know you're dead set on doing those things, but nobody else is going to be around you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's part of it. I think it's been part of my journey. There definitely been times where I've, like, felt alone. I say this a lot, you know, there've definitely been relationships and friendships I had to walk away from in order to continue to do what I do because they just didn't align anymore. And they reminded me more of who I used to be than who I wanted to become. And it's like that saying, it's like when you're in an elevator on the way to the top, sometimes you have to, like, stop and let people out on the way up. But at the same time, like, when you start to walk alone and you walk away from some of the things that don't serve you or align with your goals, vision, who you want to be, it can feel like you're on that path alone, but eventually you'll walk into other people. Like, you'll run into other people that are on the same path.
Yeah.
You're willing to walk alone. And that's what I've found. It's like, yeah, it can be lonely for a minute, but keep going. And then you're going to keep putting yourself in opportunities and circles and saying yes to things. And then you're going to realize there are other people that are doing it too.
Yeah.
And just link arms with them.
And those relationships at the end of the day, like, they take time, but they're going to be so much more fulfilling than the relationships that you're trying to, like, latch onto and hang on to. Where it's like, oh, we're on completely different paths, but at the same time, like, we did develop a great relationship and it's hard to let go. But like, once you let go and go and do your own thing and develop new relationships with people that are on the same path as you and want to do those same things as you, it's like, that's where you want to be.
Right. Because again, you're like, how much of my energy am I wasting trying to beg this person or bring this person along with me? It's like, and no judgment, no offense, no, like, everybody has and is on their own path. And it's just as, like, valuable and that they are and that I let them do them. You know what I mean? Like, if where you're headed is in a different direction, that's totally cool. I'd be doing you a disservice if I try to take you off that path. Because what I think what I'm doing is better, or I think I have the answer. It's like, can I trust that they are guided in the same way I feel like I'm guided? Can I trust that they're actually doing, even if it's not serving them, like, I'm going to trust that they will figure that out. And it's not my responsibility to make them see it or do it or want to spend their time and energy the way I do. It's like, just let people be them and focus on me, focus on myself, focus on, you know, doing the things that fill my cup and that's not always the easiest thing, but it's easier said than done, but I think it's the most useful.
Yeah, that's what separates people that are kind of just stuck in the one lane and people who actually go out and get what they want.
Yeah.
Because that's where like the true, like I'm a storyteller. That's why I started a show and I like to talk to people and build relationships because everybody has a unique story.
Right.
At least the ones, that I'm associating myself with. Where like some people born and raised in the same town, stay there, work the same job because they're comfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or people go out of their way, fail repeatedly, right? And then they eventually get to a point where it's like, I never thought that would happen. And you have a really cool story from it,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just like living the safe life and you don't really have anything interesting to say ever.
I think, unfortunately, for many people, it takes like getting to a level of discomfort where things aren't working and that you are experiencing a level of unfulfillment or unhappiness or dis-ease or whatever that then wakes you up to like, what am I doing? Like everyone that I really admire and that I think is doing really beautiful, meaningful, important work in the world, when I interview them, I'm like, they've all had a rock bottom moment. They've all had a moment where they either lost it all, something woke them up and is like, makes them reevaluate what they do, why. For me, it was after an extended period of loss. And I lost five immediate family members in a very
wow.
small amount of time. Yeah. My sister, my mom, 2 grandparents, and my uncle. And I lived through a massive F4 tornado that came through our hometown in a very small amount of time. And that woke me up, and I was like, okay, talk about time. Talk about time being valuable and important in terms of how you use it. For me, it was like, oh, I don't have time to waste anymore. Thinking that, oh, I'll just get my shit together later. Or I'll focus on this thing that I want to do, 10, 20 years from now, or when I'm secure, when I'm set up. It was like, no, get about the business of doing that now, because I don't know how much time I do have, and live in the moment, be intentional. Like, what would I want to do right now? What would be the most fulfilling, the thing that would make me bring me the most joy, the thing that lights me up like a Christmas tree, and go do it. Mm-hmm. And that's what my sister would tell me. Yep. If she was talking to me, she was like, Tori, go do it. Mm-hmm. Because I would kill to be in your position.
Yeah. She was 23.
She was 23 when she passed. Yeah. 21 when she was diagnosed. She was diagnosed with leukemia and went through 2 bone marrow transplants. We spent 2 Christmases in the hospital, so a lot of time in and out of doctor's visits. And, I saw somebody who had so much life, so much ambition, so much drive, so many things they wanted to do, have that taken from them. And there's things in life, that are unexpected. Things like a diagnosis, a tornado. These things were not self-induced. It's not like something we created.
Yeah.
And what I've realized is like there will be things, challenges, adversity that we all have to face that we weren't planning on facing, that we didn't technically sign up for. That's inevitable. But I don't have to be the creator of my own suffering. I don't have to be the one that continues to repeat an old cycle that is painful or continues to get me the same shitty results. I'm not going to be the one that creates that problem. Life will inevitably offer me something at some point that's going to be hard, and I'll deal with it then. But right now, I want to be on my own team and give myself every reason to be successful and happy and enjoy my life while I have it, and that's kind of the business I'm into right now.
It's so difficult to get into that mental state too when you do go through things like that, Mm-hmm. Like I couldn't imagine going through some of those things that you went through. But at the same time, without those experiences, you're not the person you are today.
That's like that's like the guy that like shows up in the field and the team that continues to get beat, and they're like, well, what's the point in showing up? But I think about like, what's the alternative? Just like feel sorry for myself the rest of my life. What is that going to do? Mm-hmm. Like that's painful and exhausting and miserable and hopeless. Like I would rather find and replace that story of like, why did this happen to me? Or why did I have to go through this? Or it shouldn't be this way with, hey, how do I have this whole saying. It's like, how do I find the holy in the shit?
Yep.
because we're all going to have those holy shit moments, whether they're good, we're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm experiencing this. This is beautiful. And the really, really challenging, hard moments where you don't know if you're going to get through it and it's super dark. But I promise you, if you look for it, there's meaning and purpose and something good that can come from that. And you just have to look for it. It's like if you look for the reasons to be upset and victimized and hopeless about life, they're out there. If you want to look for the opportunities, you'll find them. So it's a shift in mentality. And the reason I came to that is like really thinking about what's the alternative. The alternative is living a very sad, depressed, hopeless life. I don't want that. My sister, my family wouldn't want that for me.
Yeah.
At all.
How long did it take you to get out of that state? Because I'm sure as that's going down, you're just like bitter about everything. Sure. Everything's dark. You almost have the victim mentality, you know?
Sure. It was like what I was saying earlier. It was like 10 years I was playing defense. I was in survival. We were just running on adrenaline, dealing with the next threat. You know, what's the next thing that we're having to like deal with as a family? And then when my mom passed, it was 10 days after my 27th birthday. Shortly after that, there was like this hush, this like calm that came over my life that was just like, okay, I could feel it. There was no imminent danger. Yeah. And I was like, okay, what now? How do I live on the other side of this? It's not about moving on. It's how do I move forward given everything I've experienced? Yeah. Because I can never go back. It's like with COVID, people are like, I can't wait to go back to normal. There's never going to be normal pre-COVID. Life has changed. We have evolved. We have gone through something collectively that we'll never be able to go back prior to. And I think about that a lot. It's like the me that existed before I went through all of that doesn't exist anymore. I can't just go back to like living life without this understanding and knowledge of how precious life is, about how to use my energy, my time, and all of that. So it's like, now, how do I move forward given that understanding? And it took, it took a while of recognizing, one, that living in self-pity and feeling sorry for myself wasn't going to get me where I wanted to go. It wasn't going to make me feel better. So again, it was like, who can I learn from? Yeah. Who can help me? It's like I'm blind and I'm like, can't see the path. I need somebody who can like guide me right now. Oh yeah. And so there was definitely periods of time where I like really cling to people, therapists, healers, people who were like, just like in my ear, podcast, personal development, YouTube, that was just like reminding me of all the things I really needed to hear, that, hey, it gets better. Hey, here, use these tools. Try breath work, try meditation, do these things, because I was looking for answers and I was looking for something to bring me relief, And then when I found something, I would use it, and then I would then go teach it. So that's why I'm a breathwork facilitator now for people. Yeah. Yeah.
And when it comes to the podcast too, I know you talk about that a lot. Is there anything specific that you would like to grow in your show and in your platform? Like a specific, like, not like a dream, but like certain goals, certain guests that you want to have on that would really fulfill you?
Yeah. At the end of the day, the people that I really am excited to talk to are like you. I'm a storyteller. Yeah. People that have stories to tell. A lot of people that have overcome, everybody I talk to has overcome some kind of adversity. Because I care about, I interview some of the best in the entertainment, personal development, entrepreneurship world, and hearing them talk about like humanizing the journey, humanizing what it actually looks like behind the scenes that nobody actually hears about, because we all see people praised for what they're doing online or when we've hit some kind of upper echelon or some kind of goal, but we don't see the struggle. And so I want to humanize that for people. And I'm all about connection. So it's about, how can I get raw with you? How can I get beyond like the thing you typically
the superficial stuff,
right? The canned answer.
And that's hard to do when you're meeting someone for the first time, right?
Yeah. But if you bring people on who are open to being honest and being willing to share and to go there with you, I think there's so much opportunity because for me, I can only meet someone as far as I've been willing to meet myself. So if I continue to work on myself, then I can hold space for you when you share something that you've gone through. You know what I mean? But if I'm unwilling to go there personally, then I tend to stay at that surface level with people.
Yeah. I mean, you talked about it when you first came in. You're like, honestly, I'm one of those people. It's like, share your life story with me, right? And like, I feel like when you are working on yourself, you kind of tend to pick up on certain things about other people where you're like, okay, I kind of pick up the vibe here. Like, this person is willing to open up a little bit more than that person, right? Because like, you've been through those experiences where you're like, oh, they're a little closed off right now. And I could pick up on that easily.
Yeah. Well, because I've really had to intentionally bring down my walls. Because you go through enough stuff, you tend to build these layers and like these walls up to protect yourself from pain. It's natural. It's part of the human experience.
Yeah.
So I've had to be intentional about bringing those down to keep myself open to love and beauty and opportunity. Because otherwise, it's a very lonely, silent suffering kind of that happens. And one of the things that I learned from all of the loss was how much I value connection, how much I value closeness. So it's the way I've learned to cope with that separation and that loss. It's like, how do I bring people close? And the only way I can bring you close is if I'm willing to like meet you face to face, not with my mask, not with this persona, not with this, this is this version of me. Like, this is who I really am. And if you like me, great. And if you don't, that's okay too. But I'm not here to like perform for you so that you like me.
Exactly. I've interviewed a lot of people, and it's like there's some that are genuinely awesome like you, and then there's some where it's like, okay, here's the agenda, and then they're on their phone, and then as soon as the light goes red, then they're on.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I understand how this is going to go.
Yes. No, I hate that so much because it's like, how can I get you out of that box, out of that way of functioning? And it's about presence. How can I have you here with me in this moment? Look at me in the eye. Like, there's nowhere we need to go. There's nothing we need to do. Just be here for this conversation.
Yeah.
And I've had to cultivate that level of presence personally. Like, how can I be with myself in this moment? Not just, I can't be with you here if I'm not even willing to be with myself.
Yeah.
And what I realized is I can't be with, most of us are running from ourselves. We're trying to stay distracted. We're trying to stay numbed out. We're trying to stay as busy as possible so that we don't have to slow down long enough to feel the feelings we don't want to feel. And so part of that journey, you're like, how did you come to that conclusion? It was like, I sat with the things I didn't want to feel. I sat with the grief. I sat with the discomfort. I sat with the sadness. I let myself feel those things, and I didn't make them wrong. And that allowed me to be present and feel the really beautiful things too, and be able to experience that with somebody else.
Yeah. And either way, it's going to be hard, like getting out of that mentality of just like flat out not liking yourself is very hard and takes repetition after repetition after repetition, day after day after day. But the other alternative is that you're still stuck there, sitting in it, stuck in the mud. And it's like, either way, that's like one of the cheesiest things you'll see on social media is like, choose your hard, because everything in life is hard.
Right.
But like, it's so true.
It's so true. Choose your hard. It's easy, or it's hard to be broke.
Yeah.
It's hard to make money. It's hard to be fat. It's hard to be in shape. It's hard to be, what it is.
Hard to be married, hard to be divorced,
single,
stuff like that.
Everyone, it's always like greener on the other side. It's like grass is greener where you water it. It's going to be hard, but choose it's about effort. You know what I mean? It takes effort to avoid things. It takes effort and energy to repress things you don't want to feel. I talk about it as like, for me, part of my journey was learning how to be with the discomfort. And I teach it like emotion is like, it's energy in motion. It wants to move. If we don't feel it, what we do is repress it. And it's like holding a beach ball underwater. It wants to come up. Like, it naturally wants to come to the surface. But it takes energy, it takes effort to keep that under the water. So if I actually let it move and let it come up and let myself feel it, then it will actually leave. But I can, as soon as I meet somebody, I can like, I can feel if there are things that they don't want to deal with, they're avoiding. It's like those people that are like, okay, I'm on when the red light's on and I'm off when I'm like, I'm in
It's
it.
not even in like a podcast style thing, just like
No,
normal
in life.
people in life, where it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, they're on their phone, and then you say something that might intrigue them. It's like, oh,
Yeah. Or just
get my
certain things. It's
attention.
like, I don't go there. I don't talk about that.
Yeah.
I don't talk about that, or I don't share these parts of myself. And that's fine because we're all ready at different points.
Yeah.
And some of us aren't ever. But for me, I want peace.
Yeah.
I want freedom from like a constant suffering. I think a lot of people are tortured by their own minds and the stories that they tell and the things that they've been through. And I want to create connection where people realize they don't have to go through shit alone.
Yeah. It's like people don't like themselves, and in retrospect, that affects the people that they're surrounded with because you think it's like a you thing, you know? Like I've had friends, you've probably had friends where it's like, oh, they're not reaching out as much. They're not,
Right.
It's like, what's going on? And it's like, arguably, like it's probably just them dealing with their own shit. Their
It's
own
never
demons.
personal. If you ever read the
Yeah.
Book of Four Agreements, it's like, don't take anything personally because it's never about you.
Yeah. Which is, it's a tough thing it's a tough learning curve.
It is.
Right?
And I forget it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's why I try to surround myself with people who can remind me of that and remind me who I am and bring me back. And zoom, like I have this thing that I say, it's like zoom out. Because when I zoom in, I'm like so focused on the thing that's causing me pain or the things that I want to change or the thing that's not going well. I'm like, oh, that person did that to me or said that thing to me. I'm like zoomed in on it. So like not taking it personally or not making it about myself or having people in my life that can help me zoom out and see the bigger picture is so critical because it's like, oh, I can let this go. I don't have to get fixated on this and let it ruin my day. And the amount of time between when you get triggered and then when you're able to like let it go and not let it affect you is like, I'm trying to shorten that time period as much as possible. Because I've wasted too much of my time being offended or being pissed off or being upset that this person, I can't control anybody else.
Yeah.
You know?
That's like an everyday learning curve.
Every day.
Right? The amount of time, if I can go back and log the amount of time I've wasted just being like bitter about certain situations in my own head, it's like at least 17 hours a day.
God, so much. So much. So I think that's, for me, the maturation process, like of I'm growing when I'm able to notice when I'm offended or when I'm taking something personally or when I'm making up a story about why this thing happened.
Yeah.
And how quickly I can pivot that thinking to something more empowering.
So at this point, you got the event tomorrow.
Yeah.
What are some of the bigger goals that you have moving forward? And on the topic of, finding a way to make that ask, what
Yeah.
would you ask of people moving forward to help you out and vice versa?
Well, please come connect with me online. Follow me on social media. I'm the Tori Gordon. I share my life on TikTok and Instagram and on my podcast, the Coachable Podcast. So come subscribe, hang out with me. And my goals for this year is all about increasing visibility, connecting with high level leaders who are really intentional about trying to make a big impact in the world, make a wave. Like I feel like people like you and I, like there are people that we look up to and that we are mentored by that we are the next generation. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm ready to step into that. I'm ready for that opportunity because I've been putting in the work. I'm going to continue to put in the work and I'm just like waiting on my moment. So for me, it's about getting on more stages, getting in front of people, building that connection, that audience across the globe and getting in like live events with people. I want to put my hand around your neck. Like I want to be able to touch you on your heart, speak into your life and like look you in the eye and like build that connection. That's like what I'm all about. So live events, speaking for me, doing more of this stuff all year.
Yeah.
That's what
You
I'm
mean you're not shy?
Hosting.
You're not timid? That's like the number one thing I get. Like, that doesn't make you nervous?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, no.
who cares?
Like, no. Yes and no. I remember when I was invited to be on David's TV show, they called me up. They're like, hey, Tori, we're going to be in Vegas. Come do office hours with us. And I was like, okay. And I remember there was this part of me that was like, am I ready for that? Like, do they know who they're asking?
Yeah.
Like, are they sure they want me? And I called my dad and I was like, Dad, like, this is the thing. He's like, you're doing it. First of all, he reminded me of who I am and what I'm capable of. He's like, And it's not the fear goes away, because every time you put yourself out there, I still feel a little scared. I still feel a little nervous. It's about not letting that fear dictate how I show up in life, if I say yes or not, if I go for it or not. So it's natural to feel fear because I care. I want it to be good. It means that if I'm nervous, it means I care about the thing that I'm doing. But it's like when I got here, I was like, oh, I'm reminded these are normal people with normal lives and normal problems, just like you and me. Just be human. Just be real and connect.
Yeah.
That's all I'm responsible for. Is be myself, connect, and it's not this huge scary thing.
No. And people could take a lot away from what you have to say too. Like just this past hour, like very nice person right here. So I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm in town, I'm going to have you on like every time because I have like a billion things I could ask you and a lot of really cool nuggets that you provided the past hour or so here. So I appreciate you coming on. Again, follow Tori. What's the event tomorrow?
It's called Elevate Las Vegas. We're going to be doing more of these. So definitely follow so you can hear about more opportunities and events that we're going to do hopefully every single week or every single month. But you can go to the Eventbrite if you're here locally. It's called Elevate Las Vegas, and come join us tomorrow.
Awesome. Connect with Tori, guys. This was episode 605 of the podcast. Remember to check us out at Jack O'Hara TV on our YouTube channel. Like, comment, subscribe. Check us out, guys. Still looking for a good sign off, but that comes with time.
Yeah.
You know?
Till next time.